Namaskar, this is Late Edition. On the show tonight, we'll discuss the Prime Minister's visit to Germany. Well, India and Germany have held their second round of intergovernmental, interministerial consultations, and the Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, co-chaired these consultations with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, during which crucial bilateral, international and regional issues were discussed. The Prime Minister was given a ceremonial reception before the talks, and he said that Germany was a key partner for India in areas like infrastructure, manufacturing, science, technology, and clean and renewable energy. Dr. Chaulia, how would you look at the free trade agreement? It's been, 7 years in negotiation, 15 rounds of negotiation, and now they're hoping that on the 15th, when the trade ministers, when our commerce minister meets the EU trade commissioner, a lot of these issues will be ironed out. But some of the areas of real concern for India are, they're trying to make us reach the labor standards of a developed country, which would be unfair because we can't match those salary standards, for one. The rest is, there are institutions like the International Labour Organization, etc., which deal with labor issues. Why should they be part of an agreement? So things like that.
Yeah, and there's also, this whole concern about the automobiles sector,
right,
which has been a sticking point for a long time. And Germany, in fact, is the strongest automobile exporter in Europe and has some of these biggest names. And we are concerned about, damage to our domestic nascent auto industry. There's this whole thing about FDI in insurance, which needs to be increased from the German point of view.
But should we really be so concerned about the automobile sector? Because they sell luxury cars which are already available in India. I mean, they're just trying to bring the tariffs down a little bit.
Yeah, see, because the goal is eventual zero duties. That's what the Germans want and the Europeans want. There is always, protectionism at home, and there will be some pressure on the government not to succumb. There's also another issue, the bigger one. There's some opposition, from some segments of our society where they're saying, it will widen our trade deficit and we will import a lot more than we can export. But I think that is the crux of these kind of agreements we have with blocs.
Okay.
It was the same with ASEAN. India-ASEAN free trade agreement took a long time. But eventually we have activated it and it's now operational. So, the political thrust the Prime Minister has been calling for with Chancellor Merkel is critical because Germany in many ways holds the aces, as you've already mentioned. It is the leader of the EU. It is the dominant economy of the EU. It has been bailing out all these sick economies of the last 5 years.
Right.
And so it has to be, and Germany, the only question is, will Germany be able to import more? Because what's been happening, there's a criticism within Europe that Germany is not doing enough in terms of revving up its own consumer demand. But then it's important that Asia features very prominently for the Germans now, because Asia is the destination to which they're exporting in larger and larger volumes.
Dr. Chaulia, because in terms of the HRD ministry going there and those discussions, and there's already been an agreement to promote German language here. There are 30,000 students of our Kendriya Vidyalayas who are actually studying German as well as a language. So, and this is going to increase, that's as part of this agreement. How do you view this in the long term, this understanding of German culture through the development of the language?
Yeah, they have had cultural diplomacy in the past in India. Of course, we're connected all the way going back to Max Muller and all these things. And German, of course, is an Indo-European language. But I would say that we have definitely tended more towards French and Spanish among the European languages because they are UN languages, while German is not. But the point is that France, Italy and Spain are in decline, and they are likely to be ejected out of the top 10 economies of the world in the next 10 years, while Germany will remain there. Germany is still the world's fourth largest economy after United States, China and Japan. And it still has the fundamentals in the form of a strong manufacturing and a strong industrial base, which means that, it will remain among the major powers in the economic realm for a long time to come. And therefore, I think it makes sense for us to invest in this, because eventually this could be tied into the vocational skills exchanges of our youth, where if we are already conversant in German, it will really help in terms of transfer of technology as well as in ideas.
Dr. Chaulia, you wanted to comment on this, yes?
The Germans say that there is demographic complementarity with India, by which they mean they have a declining population and aging population, while we have a young one, we have the demographic dividend. And the way it complements is in the form of these skill transfers as well as training of young people, and eventually with the possibility of immigration as well as filling the labor shortages that can come up in Germany in the next 20-30 years. So this is how the movement of professionals, of skilled labor, skilling the workers, this is how concrete economic cooperation can really work between an emerging power like ours and a very advanced scientific and technologically powerful country.
The problem, Dr. Chaulia, is with making these things cheaper, because actually renewable energy is very expensive for us currently, and that's why we would rather use the other forms of energy. But in the long run, I mean, the costs are really irrelevant, because it has to be this way. Otherwise we'd be destroying the environment.
We have no choice.
We have no choice.
But it's interesting when I talk of cost. Germany can actually be a good substitute to the Chinese, because Chinese are also dominating the green technology and production and export, and we wouldn't want to be too dependent on imports from the Chinese. So it makes sense, I think, to have another very, very advanced industrialized country like Germany, which has the base and the corporations which are churning out these photovoltaic cells and solar panels, on a mass scale. And I think being part of the FTA eventually will also get us access to greener technologies that are affordable. But right now, definitely, I think the state will need to subsidize them for them to be competitive against fossil fuels. But eventually, having Germany produce these and importing if we import from them as well as do this co-production code with the Prime Minister mentioned, I think that is where the future lies, and we have small and medium enterprises like theirs which could work together in the technology, in green technology especially.
What's the future road for this relationship, Dr. Chaulia?
It has to go stratospheric. I mean, 18 billion or so was the last trade volume 2011. It declined slightly because of the slump in the German economy. There are projections that Germany may actually enter technically a recession, as in 3 successive quarters of negative growth. But then Germany, as I said, the fundamentals are strong, and it is an export powerhouse, and the mutual need is there from both sides to carry this forward. I think this relationship will be central also because we will need strong allies within the Western world in order to counterbalance hegemonic forces within Asia. And Germans may have their own relationships with other powers in Asia, but eventually, it makes sense for us to invest in a strong, deep relationship like this one, cabinet to cabinet when they meet. It means that it's much stronger than just head of state to head of state.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here on Late Edition.
Pleasure.
Well, Human Resources Development Minister Pallam Raju told reporters that the two countries knew each other's strengths and had identified some areas for joint research. Now they are increasing the capacity of German language collaboration in Kendriya Vidyalayas, where 30,000 children are studying German. New and Renewable Energy Minister Farooq Abdullah talked about collaboration in creating a green energy corridor. India is aiming to add 30,000 megawatts of additional capacity in renewables during the 12th plan, which would require a massive investment. The German loan would be guaranteed by the government and would also have a low interest rate of about 2 to 3%. You've been watching Late Edition. Thanks very much for your time. Namaskar.